Iron Harvest, I think, represents everything that's wrong with modern video game development, particularly with modern indie game development. Nowadays, I think you really kind of get two different types of video games. I mean, there's some companies like Atlas, which are still producing quality products on a regular basis. Nintendo still puts good stuff out. It's not as if there's nothing, but I think the industry is largely dominated by big companies like EA or Ubisoft who put out mass produced garbage. They're kind of like the Marvel movies of video games, where they just are kind of these soulless focus group, really big budget things. And a lot of the kind of more innovative or interesting or niche franchises like Command and Conquer, like every BioWare franchise, have been destroyed by EA. They run these companies into the ground and then get rid of them. So that's one side. The other side is indie developers. And indie developers are the scum of the earth. They occasionally will put out something good, something like Bloodstained Ritual of the Night was is one of the best, probably one of, if not the best, Metroidvania game I've ever played. It's excellent. I like Frostpunk, although Frostpunk had the exact same issues as Iron Harvest, and we'll get into that in a minute. But generally speaking, I think they're grifters. I think they're con artists. I think they sell their, like, the people on, we're going to give you what EA won't. EA is not going to make traditional RTSs, so we're going to make a traditional RTS. We're going to do something a little bit weird. We're going to do something a little bit different, and we need you to give us money. We need you to give us money, and we're going to give you, like, that kind of thing. Like, people are pissed off because the new Dawn of War is garbage. That Company of Heroes 2 is watered down and inferior in every way. That Total War has also gone to shit. And they're like, we're going to give you the solution to that. We're going to give you Iron Harvest. And pitching this, it sounds amazing. So Iron Harvest takes place in, I'm not sure if it's alternate universe or alternate history. It's somewhere in between. Alternate universe meaning something like Valkyria Chronicles, where it's very much based on Europe, but you don't have the same country names or the same borders, or something like alternate history would be something like Kaiserreich, where you have all the same real world people. It's just things took a different direction. So it's kind of somewhere in between that. But in this world, you have diesel punk mechs became the big thing instead of tanks. And that's interesting. So in the game, you have the Polonian Republic, which is obviously Poland, Saxony, the Saxon Empire, which is obviously Germany, and Rusviet, which is Russia slash the Soviet Union, although it still has a czar for some reason. I guess it's a Nazbol state, maybe? And obviously, it takes place during the 1920s. So you have a lot of good elements here. You have diesel punk, which is interesting. You don't see too much of that. You have World War One era mechs. You have something that takes place during the 1920s. I can't think of very many games that take place during the 1920s, especially war games. Maybe someone could post in the chat in the comment section. I can't recall another RTS or military game that's set during the 1920s. Also, it's inspired by the Soviet invasion of Poland. And that's something, that's a very interesting historical event that I don't know if I've ever seen, like, in film or in whatever. So, I mean, this sounds great. You're having a Company of Heroes style game with mechs in an unusual setting, in an unusual historical period. On the basis, this should be awesome. And I think that's what they did, is they suckered everybody in with the promise that they're going to give them the Company of Heroes, the Dawn of War sequel that everybody wanted. And I didn't follow the development that carefully, but what I've read in reviews and stuff, the developer promised all this kind of stuff. Lots of people just gave them tons of money to make Iron Harvest. Everyone was just really, really psyched. For this game, it was an open beta, and then they released it. So They're very lucky. A lot of these companies are lucky that I'm not a professional reviewer whose opinion would be counted on Metacritic, because anyone who released an unfinished game that and called it finished and then said we're going to add major content via either paid or unpaid DLC, I would like automatically cap it at like a 5. Like if it was the best game ever but it wasn't finished, I'd give them like a 5 out of 10. And it would just go down for there, cuz I think it's completely unacceptable to call something a full release, to not even call it early access. Like this game functions about as well as Victoria 2 did on release. It's a disaster. We'll get into that. So here's number one, the biggest problem. It doesn't say early access. Second biggest problem, $70 Canadian for the base game. That is exceedingly expensive. Let me see how much Jedi Fallen Order is. I think Jedi Fallen Order is less than that. No, it's the same. So this indie game is charging full AAA price. And I'm a lot of AAA games are shitty. I happen to like Jedi Fallen Order, but the production costs for those are really, really expensive. So I can kind of get why they have to charge that much to recoup their investment. But they're charging you full top dollar. They're not charging you $40, $50, and then you can maybe kind of accept that it has some problems with it because you get what you pay for, but no. And then they have Iron Harvest Deluxe. And the deluxe content's not even in the game yet. They promised them something like an extra campaign, but that's not been delivered, and I don't think there's any ETA on when it's going to be delivered. The deluxe edition includes a mini campaign and a big add-on, granting access to all new adventures in the alternate reality. Exact content's still to be determined, but expect hours of real-time strategy and story-driven action. Well, that's great. I mean, who doesn't want to buy something that costs 50% more and doesn't have any additional content in it? I mean, I think that is very fair. They also promised when it was released there was going to be a co-op campaign. And I was kind of excited because I thought I could maybe stream this with Sir, but I don't think his computer's good enough to run it. And there was no co-op campaign. Now, people might say, well, Argent, they released it a little while ago, and I don't really care. Even if I was reviewing it today, I would still give it a bad review solely on the basis that they lied. You can't release something and have it be like, call it a full release, not call it a beta, not call it early access, and then not have one of the core features of it. I think there also wasn't ranked multiplayer. They're still doing like major balancing changes. Having played this, it's like nowhere near done. We'll get into the other bullshit, which is how bad the skirmish map is. So it's a fucking mess. The base building is atrocious. Let's just maybe get into the actual game. So, okay, so we have Iron Harvest 1920. Okay, this looks pretty good. Now, to their credit, they do have a full campaign. I will give them that. They had a full campaign. The campaign has good writing. The voice acting's not bad. I like the campaign. The issue is the campaign is nowhere near finished. I mean, it's finished, but it's a disaster. So, in this level, Railroad Robbery, I lost this like 3 or 4 times. Because of the way the tech tree was set up in this level, you can't build base defenses. You just can't. You can build bunkers, but you can't put machine guns on the bunkers. So you have to put inferior infantry inside of your bunkers and hope for the best. You're also tech limited in the way that the AI isn't, so you can't get tier 2 mechs. And you're stuck with tier 1 Polonian mechs, which aren't very good, to be honest. The levels have like the most clear instances of like triggering things with the AI I've ever seen. Because the AI, I mean, it doesn't have a pop cap. It doesn't have like resource income. and it doesn't have to build things as far as I can tell. It just gets off map reinforcements, so reinforcements just appear. So the AI is either doing absolutely nothing, or if you move to a certain part of the map, it triggers a massive counterattack that will just sweep down. And as I said, you can't build base defenses in this level. I mean, you can build bunkers and then put infantry in them, but that's nonsense. That's retarded. I don't think you can even build. I forget if you can build anti-tank guns in it. You get one hero mech unit who basically has to do everything for the entire mission, and it's just like you have to take out, like, there's optional objectives, like you have to take out like side bases and doing side objectives. And sometimes if you like, because there's 2 supply bases you have to take out in this level, and if I went to the right one, it triggered a massive counterattack that just blew me up. But if I took the west one first, it didn't trigger a massive counterattack. And it's completely, I don't know if it's random or it's just programmed, but it's a shit show. So that sucked. Path to Hope was an escort mission. Once again, it's not very clear what you're supposed to do in these and where you're supposed to go. One of the shitty things in a lot of these missions is you have something that I call a commando mission, where you don't have a base, but you won't have a base, but you'll have units, and they don't provide you with income during these. So, like in this mission, which is an escort mission, you have extremely limited resources, and finding them doesn't really help. But so you can't really repair your mechs. You can't repair your mechs. You can't repair your train. It would be nice if you could repair them, but you just can't for some reason. And there's like 1 or 2 you can capture, but it's very specific which ones you can capture, because sometimes if you capture them, it triggers a massive counter assault, and sometimes it doesn't. So that was that mission. Although once you actually get to the base building part, that wasn't that bad. Then we have Kolno and Chaos, which was also a joke, because there's a part of the mission where you have to blow up 3 anti-air guns. And after you blow up the second one, the Rusviets send in 2 SERP mechs. They're actually called SERP mechs, which is like, I think their second to ultimate mech. And once again, it's a commando mission where you get no resources, and you're supposed to build units in it, and you're vastly outnumbered, so you just have to cheese it. But they call in 2 SERPs, which you have no way of fighting, and you're supposed to know that you don't have to blow up the third anti-aircraft gun. You just have to reach the 3rd anti-aircraft gun. So the average person would be like, okay, I think the goal here is I have to figure out some way to cheese the game to kill the 2 SERP super mechs, and then go and take out the anti-aircraft gun like the previous 2. But it doesn't work that way. You're just supposed to run all your units at it. And then a cutscene plays and it gets like stopped or something like that. Which is bullshit. And then I'm stuck on Showdown. I kind of want to download a trainer to play this, because frankly this mission is like complete garbage. When I was like playing it, it was early in the level, and I captured one of the supply bases, and then Rusviet just sent an onslaught of like their end game mechs, like their strongest mechs. Your base defenses are complete shit in this game. They don't do any. Well, I mean, maybe they're not complete shit. They're pretty fucking bad though, and it just destroyed my entire base in about 3 seconds, and then that was the end of the mission. And the AI just can spam it. Like, maybe I'll just go in and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Also, the loading is terrible. Maybe it's loading okay now, but the loading is not great. So that's Anna there. I like Anna a lot. She's best girl. Although I haven't played with the Rusviet girl yet, but the campaign is like interesting. Like it's a good campaign. It's just it's nowhere near finished. And there's the fact that they keep rebalancing stuff and taking in and taking out units, and it's just kind of a joke. So, yeah, like I said, it's just really really slow to load. And I have a really good computer. So it's not that. I guess it's not on my solid state drive. It's on my HDD, but yeah, it's like playing the Sega CD. Wow. The 99% is always the biggest insult because 99% means like 50%. Okay, here we go. It's done loading. Okay, so here I am in this mission. They have just thrown their end game mechs at me. They were attacking me from this angle as well. So as soon as I took this Western supply base over here, and I have all my soldiers over there, they just teleported like all these massive mechs at me. And look at that. Look at how shitty this is. Like the model disappears. Like, look at that. That's horrible. So this is your base defenses. So it's kind of like Company of Heroes in that it's fixed forward and they only fire in a narrow arc. So it just starts off as a bunker, and then you upgrade it with with a heavy machine gun, and then you can upgrade it with a cannon, and you can also put infantry inside of it. So I mean, I guess that's okay, but it's still kind of shit. And I'll show you the like amazing tech tree they put in this game. Or do I have an engineer? There we go. Oh, um, okay. So here's the tech tree. So we have headquarters, barracks, mech facility, and that's it. And then we have bunker, machine gun bunker, cannon bunker. You can't build this by default. You can only build that once the engineer has reached a certain level of veterancy. So, I mean, that's good, but like, so the bunker, the barracks, I don't think you get you might get field guns in that mission. I don't, I was complaining about, I don't know. So he's got that. The only resources in the game are steel and oil, which is fine, I guess. It's kind of fucked though, because you start off with no resources and then you have a shit ton of them. There's really no in between in this game. It's either feast or famine. But like, let's just run this for a second. So I have my anti-infantry here, and they're just going to destroy my entire base. They also have their end game rocket artillery. It's just a slaughter. And I had like multiple base defense structures there and that sort of thing. And there's just like literally nothing I can do in this circumstance. I can't even kill one of them. One of these end game super mechs. So there's that. So that's what the campaign is like, and it's a joke. It's a complete and utter joke. And I'll show you the other like shit part of this game. The skirmish. Now the skirmish is, I think, what a lot of people bought this game for. I love the Company of Heroes skirmish, but it's bullshit. Oh, another thing I forgot to mention in the campaign is you have a very, very low population cap. I think you can generally field up to 8 units, whereas the AI can field like 800. So you're always outnumbered, and you can't really build the numbers to match the AI. So this is their skirmish, and they've actually added a substantial number of maps. It used to be, I think, 2, 2, 1. So they released the game with 5 skirmish maps. Why they thought that was acceptable, I don't know. but they released it with 5, and that was it. Like, and they're all like really, really boring. Like, let's take a look at one maybe. Or that one's a bit better because it was a new one. Deserted tracks. Let's just load this. And you have this shitty reserve system. I don't even like. Well, I do know what it is, but it's shit. Also, there's no unit upgrades. You can't, like in Company of Heroes, you could customize your units. Like if you're playing the Panzer Elite, you can upgrade Panzer Grenadiers with Panzer Shreks or uh, STG 42 or whatever it is, or just stuff like that. You can't do it here. It would be nice if you could, but you're just not allowed to for some reason. So, like, it's just, I don't know. I guess it looks a bit like a Company of Heroes map, but there's just none of the depth. I also think the graphics, honestly, I mean, they're okay, I guess. The character models, there's not separate, really, the unit types don't really vary that much. So I guess some of them have backpacks and some of them don't. And that's about it. That's the only difference between the two of them. Or do they? No. No, there is no difference. The no, the engineers have the backpacks and the spades. The normal riflemen don't. So there's no diversity in the unit models. Another like dumb thing about this game is you can build defenses anywhere. So what I normally do in Skirmish is I rush the AI's base and I build pillboxes at it, and then they can't do anything. And the AI in Skirmish is just kind of hopeless. Because, I mean, it cheats, but the AI is also retarded. So sometimes, like, if you can kill it in the first couple minutes because it has no idea what it's doing, you can normally win the match. But if you can't do it in the first couple of minutes, then you're just fucked. And they're just going to spam you. And the other thing is you don't have to have, there's no sectors to capture in this game. So you just capture individual buildings. So like you don't need them to reinforce. There's no command abilities. There's no tech trees. Every country has the same basic unit structure. So this is Polonia. So let me just build a barracks and I'll show you what I mean. And we'll take a look at the other two. Oh, I don't have enough resources to build a barracks at the beginning. That's great. Well, I kind of showed you what the roster was in the previous thing. So let's just go back to the main menu. This is amazing content. I clearly had this all figured out beforehand. Also, why is Skirmish under missions? It doesn't make any sense. Okay, so starting resources high. Okay, so we'll take a look at Saxony. Just load this. Like, one of the things that made Company of Heroes so good is you had 4 factions that were all completely different from one another, but were fairly well balanced. I think UK was a bit weaker than the others, but they all had very different strengths and very different weaknesses. In this game, the mechs are a bit different, and there's some slight differences between the basic infantry, but largely speaking, they're all identical. So let's see, we're going to build a barracks. So as with Polonia, we have the headquarters, you have engineer. In their case, they get stormtroopers that cost the same amount as the riflemen. I mean, I guess it's different because they get submachine guns. Rusviet gets shotguns, which doesn't make a lot of sense. And Polonia gets bolt-action rifles. So, just going to wait for this to be done. Like, the Panzer Elite didn't get defenses unless you went down the Luftwaffe tree. And their infantry structure was very different than the others. Same thing with the British and trucks. So, we have... which one's this? We have anti-armor gunners, which are exactly the same as each other factions. We have grenadiers, which is exactly the same as the other factions. We have field cannons, medics, heavy machine gun, mortars, and exoskeletons. Now, the exoskeletons are different, and the mechs are different, but yeah, see, it's exactly the same. Shrapnel, HE cannon. And then we'll just take a quick look at Rusviet. I think Rusviet is overpowered. The game isn't very well balanced either. So let's see here. Missions, skirmish. Maybe we'll do another one. Starting resources, very high. Okay, so let's see here. We have just build the thing. I'll build a mech reserve too, so you can see what the mech tech screen looks like. But yeah, see, costs the exact same amount. Engineers cost the same amount. Vanguards cost the same amount. Barracks, headquarters, workshop. I think they all cost exactly the same. Theirs might cost more. I forget. I don't really remember, to be honest. Okay, so that's going. Okay, come on, come on. Like, even the new factions people introduced in some of the mods, like in the Easter Front mod, the Soviets play completely differently than any of the other factions do. Same thing for the Modern Day mod and just kind of the others. Okay, so what do we have? Grenadiers, anti-armor gunners, flamethrowers, field gun, heavy machine gun, mortar system, exoskeleton. I guess their exoskeletons different. But yeah, then we have the mechs. So we have 3 base mechs and 3 advanced mechs. And hero units are something that's completely different. So that's how it is. There's no real distinction between the factions. I mean, their mechs vary a little and their basic infantry units vary a little, but by and large, they just made the same faction 3 times, made some minor cosmetic changes, and called it a day. That's not a successor to Company of Heroes. That's not like even Command and Conquer, not in GDI, had different play styles. They had like completely different unit roster. Well, not completely different, because their infantry were kind of similar, but they had different base structure. They had different base defenses and stuff like that, and that only got more clear as time went on. Like in Tiberian Sun, all their vehicles are different, and they have completely different focuses. Like GDI has mechs, not keeps its tanks, and it's just not the way like an RTS like this is supposed to go. So Iron Harvest was a massive scam. It's too bad because there's a lot of things to like about it. The setting's good, the art's good, the actual mechs look pretty interesting, and the campaign is good despite its like all of the shitty aspects of it. But there's just really nothing that like there's nothing I can do. And the final insult is I can't find where the exe file is for this. So I don't even know how to use a trainer to get through the last Polonian mission and maybe see the rest of the game, because unlike Command and Conquer, they lock the other campaigns. You can't just do them all at the same time. You have to finish Polonia. Everything else is locked, which is bullshit. So overall, I'm going to give this game 2 thumbs down. Don't buy it unless you really, really, really want to. Maybe if you want to buy it in like 6 months when the game's finished, that might work. But the campaign will probably be even more fucked because they keep rebalancing things and changing the AI. And the campaign missions are all based on the AI being a certain way. So that's the review. God bless. I hope it made you decide whether or not you wanted to get this piece of crap. And I'll talk to you guys later.